welcome to Dirty Living Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Meese, and today I've got Randall Metcalf and Rocco Lucido. How do I say that? I've only read it, man. I've never actually had to say it. So.
I got goofy Italian names, Lucido.
Oh, well, I would have never got that. So, but we've got these guys here, and they're with Nimble Equipment, and we're going to hear some background from them, some history on how they got to Nimble, and then just what they're seeing in the industry. So, Randall, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your background. How did you end up in the industry? And then we'll switch over to Rocco.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. So, I kind of fell into the construction world. Not my normal background. My normal background was in technology and high tech and building software for big Fortune 500 companies and doing IT infrastructure and cloud-based technologies. Started seeing the opportunity in construction, in particular in rental and rental equipment. Figured that there was a lot of opportunity that we could help solve a lot of problems, and started putting Nimble together. Nimble, we work with large publicly traded companies and big GCs to supply and support their construction equipment for the projects across the U.S., working as equipment managers to manage the temporary assets on those projects and utilizing our technology and our processes to streamline that for them.
Man, that's awesome. So big jump from technology to the construction world, which is probably one of the spaces that is, in my opinion, so far behind in technology. How was that transition for you? And what are some things that just right off the cuff that you see about the construction equipment industry that, you could see from the technology perspective that we're most deficit in? Because I feel like there's a lot of space, a lot of room for growth there.
Yeah, I think that what we've noticed first off is it's pretty easy to make impressive impacts, right? Because a lot of the people have not seen technology applied, in organizations and in businesses where it's already been matured in a lot of different industries and settings. And so I think that it's a knowledge and trust and confidence within technology being able to bring true value. I think that where probably most what we see is them not capturing data points and using data for decision making.
Yeah, wholly agree with that, man. The data is so critical, and I'm a little bit of a data nerd myself. And, I always tell people if a doctor could keep a monitor for all of your vitals all day, every day, think of how much better, how much more advanced. And we actually have that capability in this world, but we just don't really utilize it, fully utilize it, right? So much important information that we can gather from that. So Rocco, switching over to you, tell us a little bit about your background and history, and then how did you land at Nimble?
Yeah, so out of high school, I started the law enforcement train. I started as a cadet, worked my way up to jailer before I was 21, did that for a few years, and then 21 years old, I was in the police academy, and ever since then, so the last 6-7 years, I was a sworn officer up until last year. And
Wow.
Then I landed with Nimble, working as a project manager.
That's an incredible jump too.
Yeah, big jump, but it was good.
So because everybody on this side of the world, we always feel like we have a stressful environment and a high paced environment, but I got to think coming from, the law enforcement background, this is probably like a vacation.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of stress in this world, but it's just a different stress.
We're not losing lives over here.
Got to make critical decisions very, very quickly.
So what do you feel like, from your past training, what do you feel applies most to what you're doing day to day now?
The people skills and problem solving. So as a police officer, you have to be able to have people skills. You're dealing with nothing but every kind of person all day, every day. I did that for 10 total years in every facet. I worked in law enforcement. So translating that over to the equipment management side and working with Nimble and all the companies and vendors and such, it's just being able to talk with people and build relationships. And that's all I did for the last 10 years. So the translation from that over to this, for me, it was seamless in that sense. That's and then awesome. the problem solving, like Randall was saying earlier, we solve problems. That's all I did for 10 years was solve people's problems.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. That seems like, half of our positions in this world are just solving someone else's problems or our own internal problems too. So very cool. Tell us a little bit about Nimble. How did you guys get that put together as a company? And then what was kind of the driving focus behind that or the driving force behind that? Then we'll talk a little bit about what you guys specifically cater to.
Yeah, great. So we found that companies were working with multiple vendors to satisfy the needs of a project. Coming from a technology background, you work on building teams. Doesn't matter if they're human teams or they're asset teams. It's the same thing. And so we use methodologies and process to build project teams for building high-tech, either systems or software or infrastructure to build asset teams for the assets that are going out on these projects. So we recognize that the businesses were very similar in terms of model and that the benefits could be used through the construction industry. We were able to come in and land some large marquee customers, whether they were government, military, private sector customers. They started feeling the benefits of leveraging the process, getting organic growth from there, and started building up the organization.
So what triggered the construction world for you? Because I do feel like that is something that could apply to probably a lot of industries. This is all I've ever done, so I'm making a little bit of an assumption there, but what specifically drove you to this direction?
Yep, that's an easy answer, man. The easy answer is in terms of volume of money moving, right? When you're looking at building and working on a new business venture, leveraging knowledge and things that you've learned in other industries, the first thing you look for is the biggest money moving, right? And then figuring out how to get involved with that transaction. Construction, particularly in the construction equipment world, is a huge high volume transaction and movement of volumes of money. And that's the reason why we decided to land into that area.
Awesome. So tell me, kind of explain what the day-to-day looks like at Nimble. So you're managing a lot of rental, and I'm assuming some other assets for your customer base, for your clients. And so what does that kind of look like? And I know you're working obviously with, different suppliers and that kind of thing. So what do you feel like maybe some key problems that you guys are solving? And you guys have been very successful with this, so I know it's working. What are some key problems you feel like you're solving on a daily basis? And then kind of what does that look like for you guys day to day?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, man. Really, it comes down to continuity. When you get a number of different vendors and suppliers that are supplying the projects, the core baseline is just continuity, giving them one source that is learning their projects and giving them consistency across the board, no matter where they go throughout the U.S., and being able to consistently deliver on what they need for those projects. Because it varies, right? One project has a scope, another project has another scope, and each scope requires different machinery, equipment, fluid solutions, trench equipment, right? It comes across the board, and there's no rhyme or reason other than a scope of work that their client is dictating for them, and then being able to build that team that they put their human resources into to deliver on those projects and scopes.
Awesome. I love it. And Rocco, you're kind of the boots on the ground dealing with those solving problems for people day in and day out, dealing with probably a lot of different personalities day in and day out. How has that been so far, man? And I mean, you're very good at it. So my personal experience, I'm just going to say you guys are incredibly organized. You're very responsive. I can tell, how quickly you're getting back and forth for your clients, which is something we don't see a lot of. So the speed in itself, right? Just the quickness of your response and staying on top of things, very impressive to me. But tell me kind of your methodology behind that. How do you keep up with what sounds like a pretty good volume of work?
Organization is 100% key. If you're not organized, you're not going to be successful. We're doing stuff across the U.S. in different locations, different companies, different people, right? And different guys work their jobs differently, and how they communicate. You have to be able to translate, and use almost like a stoplight methodology where, you have all this info coming in really quick. Stop. Where's it going? Push it out where it's got to go. Sit and wait. I haven't heard back from there yet. Got to get that back. it's a whole lot of moving parts. And the key to just being successful in that is organization. If you're not organized, you're not going to be successful.
I love
Jason,
it.
I got it. So when I hired Rocco, first thing I said to him was, "Hey man, what do you think of stoplights?" And because honestly, what we do is we are traffic management, and we are a stoplight. At the end of the day, we are sitting in the middle of the transaction, and we are a stoplight, and we are directing traffic.
I love that. And so, coming from a police background, I have to ask, what did you say when he asked what you think of stoplights?
Or that I could care less about stoplight. All right.
Well, no wonder you had to get out of that
Let me
business.
do this, Jason. The answer I was expecting is, man, I hate it when they run them. No.
Right. What a terrible reason to have to get out in the rain.
It's horrible. I hated getting out in the rain. And it was like you had to basically talk yourself into a ticket with me. I was looking for something else. You got to talk. You're already not getting a ticket.
Yeah. Act just right, and you'll make me want to give you one, probably.
Yeah. Trust me, I don't want to write it.
Right. I get it. So tell me more, talking more about specific industries. Where do you guys have certain sectors that you're finding more success and more need for your support than others? Or, what would you say your niche in the industry, specifically, what are you guys doing or targeting, or where are you finding your most success? What type of customers?
Yeah, no, that's also an easy answer, man. So for us, we are a woman-owned small business. My wife owns the company. So we understand and know how to leverage the small business channels and avenues. And we leverage that throughout the U.S. to help open up new opportunities. And I can tell you that, everyone's like, oh, you take the easy way. You go through the small business route to open up opportunities. That just opens doors. You still have to, deliver on a value proposition and deliver results every day to keep those opportunities after those doors are open. So we found a lot of success working with the military contractors, oil and gas, and other large public utility style customers. And then the general contractors that are supporting those companies as well, and performing a lot of the work. We also find that environmental remediation contractors are probably, I would say, our bread and butter, because those guys are consistently moving. They have a very tight niche focused, and they move with the work. And so we found that, big brick and mortar, they might not find as much value out of us, but companies that are moving consistently, continually with their teams, that's where we found the most value.
Excellent. So what's the future of Nimble? What do you guys continue to do what you're doing, I'm assuming, and then do you guys have anything else you're looking forward to? Anything that you're seeing in the industry that you're excited about? What does the future look like?
Yep. So what we're finding is the companies are moving a lot more to technology. They're moving a lot more data driven. They're moving a lot more technology tools to deliver their projects. And we've been following suit with that, with being able to support them, whether it is 3D grade control and having machines fully set up with that, and working on. It's one thing to want to do that with your job, and it's another to have operators that are capable of running those machines. But how do you get that set up on your job? How do you procure that? How do you get that physically on your job? And we do that for our customers. We do a lot of drone work for LiDAR and surveying and things for our customers.
Okay.
We also are taking a huge step into safety with utilizing AI technologies and cameras on the machines with cloud-based technologies that are setting KPIs and baselines, tracking that, capturing all the near misses, all the infractions, all the actual issues that come up. We're recording those, putting them into systems where people can manage and track them. We're working on, being in California, we're working on carbon and sustainability. And we have software projects going on right now to try to help companies start creating baselines in their journey through how to manage carbon sustainability and compliance. And we're moving as an add-on to the asset companies that continue to build their assets. Hopefully, we like to think that we are providing a bridge and a gap of some of the technology aspects that these large corporations are needing and requiring, and helping those companies with that.
Excellent. So I want to talk a little bit about that. There's a lot to unpack there, I feel like. So the first thing I want to ask about, going back to the technology, or diving a little bit more into the technology. You've come from that world. Where do you think the most, if you were to pinpoint something and say, hey, look, this is probably, the most critical need I can see technology could solve in the industry, acutely. What do you think, from your perspective, what do you think that looks like? Or where do you think the biggest deficit is that you see in a day-to-day?
It's an opinion, right? I mean,
Right.
that answer is 100% going to be an opinion. And we take a little bit of a different approach to it. I'm still going to answer your question, but we take a little bit of a different approach to it. And we take kind of a more of a business analysis approach, working with the project teams, understanding what business problems the customers are running into while they're trying to solve their customer problems. Because every one of our customers comes with a different requirement for what they deem important and what their customer deems important. The core of that is budget, right? And so if the client doesn't see value in it, it doesn't matter how cool a technology solution, the customer has to see value in it to put budget to it that makes it worthwhile for everybody. And so there's not a silver bullet answer, but the opinion answer, I believe that coming from a data background, the biggest problem that I see is a lack of collection of data, and then using big data or similar technologies to be able to translate that into decision-making data. And I believe that is the biggest trends that you're going to see for the construction world, for the equipment world coming up. And we hope to be able to play a part in that.
So from a data perspective, one of the things that, I see, and I want your opinion on this as well, is that the data that is being collected, and I wholly agree, it's not being collected. There's not enough information being collected. It's not collected at a granular enough level. But the biggest issue, in my opinion, is that most of the data has the ability to be manipulated within the designed ERPs, the designed softwares, and not saying that people are cooking their books, but the way the data is captured is it really has the ability to skew the data. It becomes inaccurate a lot of times in the way that it's funneling down. Would you agree with that from what you've seen?
What I would say is anywhere that it is a manual entry for data, you 100% have that. Whether it is an honest error, whether it's a dishonest error, right? But if there's manual inputs, but as long as you're collecting data feeds out of IoT devices that are consistently providing same consistent data, the data that we see at that point, as long as it's coming from consistent IoT devices, is good data that is sustainable data, that is good data-driven decision data. If it's anything that's entered or manually received, it has too many anomalies to be able to make good decisions on.
Or manually corrected. That's the other one.
Or manually corrected.
Manually corrected.
If there's a way to edit, right? There's an edit button.
If we don't capture the edit, a big part of that too is, like, for me, I see dispatch data, not necessarily transactional data being captured, right? Which has the ability to really be, a lot of those systems, when they are doing data capture, it's coming from, some sort of a dispatch or finalization instead of an actual transactional. And so, especially with financial data, you're not always getting, and again, just things I've seen in opinion, right? But I feel like from a data perspective, that's one of the real downfalls or shortcomings in a lot of the systems within the industry.
But just to add to that, Jason, real quick, I'm going to get back to, it's 100%, the motivation that your stakeholder has. And every stakeholder has a different motivation. As long as you understand and capture the motivation of the stakeholder and you can deliver consistent results to them, that's where the value of your data is going to come from.
Yeah,
Nothing
for
else
sure.
matters except for that.
For sure. So Rocco, coming over here to Nimble, you guys obviously have, Randall's got a background in the technology space. You guys are obviously very technology driven with the things that you guys are doing. Is that kind of a newfound interest coming over to Nimble that has been acquired, or is that something you've had an interest in throughout the years?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've acquired and become interested in, more so coming from my side. I'd say the last few years of my time, they started being more technology driven in the police world. I started getting a little taste of it, but then coming over here, it's been eye opening, just seeing how much different stuff there is that can be used.
So much potential in this world. I feel like we're always, and back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, Rocco, we're always, delivering the value for software and technology in this industry has always been an uphill battle, right?
Yeah.
Historically has. And I think it's, you're seeing a lot more reception to it now than what we've seen in the history. But I can't imagine very many industries that have so much potential to utilize it and improve their processes, improve, the day-to-days, reduce, man hours, and really streamline a lot of operations. Everybody always talks about, machine automation and stuff like that. And yes, sure, that's important. But I think a lot of just the systems, like we're talking about, the data, the information, delivering information back. And I don't think most people understand how critical that data is to the daily operations and reporting information back to help streamline. Rocco, you're talking earlier about how critical being organized within the industry is. That data just helps you do that better, right?
Oh.
And the information just helps you do that better. And so the better information the better the input, the better the output, right? It's just this vicious cycle. So, it would be hard for me to, and Randall, you could probably speak a lot more to that, but it would be really hard for me to imagine, a space that had more potential for technology than this one.
Yep. Nope. It's true. But I'll let Rocco talk to it a little bit. Rocco is knee deep in our systems. Our systems are not public. No one ever sees them. They're internal systems and proprietary, systems and data that we use to make our magic happen, right? But Rocco lives in those systems while he's working and managing, customers and providing them a different experience than they might get today with others. Rocco's great with people. That's why we brought him in. And then having systems that nobody else in the industry is using definitely helps us differentiate yourself to the customers.
So Rocco, what does that look like for you?
I can make one job page and have every single thing I have moving on that page, whether it be a site service with a toilet and an office, all the laundry list of equipment, survey, whatever the scope of the work is. It's one page for me to look up, one page to have in front of my face. So when I'm working with a customer or working with a vendor, all my information is right there, and I can immediately answer a question or make a maintenance call, whatever, and I have every bit of information I need at the tip of my finger, which is why, like you were saying earlier, we're pretty prompt when we're emailing or texting or calling, because the second I get word of there's an issue, I get rolling on it.
Maybe to add a little bit, in the IT world, we call that a single pane of glass, right? So we use a single pane of glass technology, and we stream all the information from different sources, to make it where we can automate a lot of process. We can automate, in dashboards and things that, I could be wrong, but I don't believe a lot of our, competitors or people in the industry are working through. Yeah.
I love that. I see that as the future. I think we'll see a lot more systems going to that, in the future, because I feel like it expands your capacity so much, right? And allows you to be so organized with real-time information happening right in front of your face. Whereas, I see a lot of rental offices and even, construction management offices where we've got 5 or 6 different screens, trying to keep up with all this information. And some of it might have a pop-up notification or something like that, but, you're keeping track of 4 or 5 different, I see these war rooms, right? And I'm sure you guys have been in a lot of these offices, but a lot of the, a lot of the larger players, you go to their equipment management offices, and there's these massive war rooms where they're trying to manage exactly what you're talking about. Is you're trying to manage all of this information, but they're doing it on not one.
Yeah.
What did you say? One pane of glass. It's 6 of them. Right?
I feel like that's where our value comes into play, and that it's where we work well with these companies, because they have war rooms where it can get confusing and overwhelming, where they text or email me or call me, and then they want a certain certain information, or this called off or that called off. They don't got to go scramble on who that is to call it off with. I'm that one point of contact. I'm the one person to reach out to and make sure everything is going smooth for that entire job, for equipment, site services, etc.
I love it, man. That's really awesome.
Actually, Jason, I got something to add before we start. The next piece that would be good is, sharing a little bit of our secret sauce of what makes us special. I think that maybe more impressively is not just having that, in the industry, but we are a small business. We are, DBE. We are, several other things that end in E, right? That meet those contractual objectives. And I would say that our competitors in the small business space are probably still using QuickBooks, right? To try to keep up and manage real at scale work for enterprise companies. And so, what we find is, those folks do become, some of our competitors in the small business space and the set aside contracts. And it is a huge differentiator in our ability to do work at scale with mature processes and using systems that might even be better than those large corporations and companies are using, where they're used to working with other small businesses and DBs and others in those projects that are trying to keep up with using a tool like a QuickBooks or something like that. And that's probably one of our major differentiators when you start looking at, our intake space of the small business.
Yeah, what a huge advantage. Huge advantage. That's awesome. So you said earlier the environmental space has been a really good space for you guys. You feel like that's been a big hit for you. What are you guys seeing in that industry right now?
Environmental, man, right now. I think the EPA just, deemed PFAS, right, is a major thing that they want to go ahead and send money on to clean up. We're seeing a lot of the big guys starting to go after a lot of the PFAS remediation work that is starting to drive more revenue and opportunity for these general contractors. And for us, we're coming in and supplying the equipment that is happening for that, because a lot of these are federally funded. There are requirements for small business, and we understand the work. We understand what machinery and equipment is needed, and being able to orchestrate not only the equipment, but the fluid solutions and the frac tanks and the filtration and pumps and everything that comes along with that, and being a one-stop shop for those guys, where they bring their manpower, resources, and knowledge for delivering the project, and our ability to come in and give them all of the tangible asset tools that they need to be successful. We're finding a really good marriage there.
I'm glad to hear that. And so you said oil and gas has also been pretty good for you guys. That is a space that's, slowed off, but it certainly hasn't disappeared, right? I think there's I feel like a lot of people are under the impression that that's all but gone for, a while. And it really has stayed fairly busy. It just isn't, it's not what we would call a boom probably. So are you guys still doing quite a bit in that space?
I would say not so much. What's probably a fair assumption that's really pushing right now is we follow a lot of industry trends and do what good business owners do, follow the money. And right now we know that mine reclamation is big. There's a lot of changes in that world, and there's a lot of mine reclamation going on. So we're chasing down the mine reclamation work. We're also with a lot of our DBE and other small business certifications, all that infrastructure bill money, where you're seeing a lot of money going into airports, rail, highway infrastructure work. We just been trying to capitalize as much as we can on that, because if you look at it, industry as a whole, right now, that industry, that the fund, that grant that came out, the trillions of dollars for infrastructure, is really what's keeping the industry afloat and alive right at the moment. And we've been able to get our fair share of that work as well.
That's excellent. Well, guys, we're kind of getting to time, but I want to give you guys an opportunity. If there's anything else you guys want to share, anything you're specifically excited about coming up or that's going on with the company, feel free to pop that out there, and then we'll close.
Honestly, man, you kind of helped us cover a lot of ground. As a small business, we're always looking for ways to reach out. Nobody knows who we are. Every opportunity we get to publicize that, we appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your show here, man.
Well, I think that it's really important because you guys are filling a very specific need in the industry, and it's one that you and I have talked about. I mean, I've seen it from a different perspective, but I see the need, on a regular basis. So while we're on that, give me for anybody that might be out there watching, what would you say? Hey, if you're fighting these problems, or you're up against this type of a situation, Nimble's a solution for you. What does that customer look like?
Yep. So our primary customer is typically the traveling general contractors that have large projects that require multiple vendors to be able to supply the equipment. Our tagline is hunt, deliver, manage, so you don't have to. And that's what we do. Equipment, you have trench, you have vehicles, you have fluid solutions, you have all these different aspects and elements of your job. We supply and provide a single source of procurement. Your procurement team comes in, awards us a purchase order, and we handle it from there. And we completely take a managed service approach to delivering all the tangible assets that you need in a single procurement. And that's, if companies, see value to that, we 100% can come in and solve some problems.
Excellent. And we'll put a link in with this to be able to reach out to you guys and contact. Yeah. That way, if somebody sees it and they're like, man, that really speaks to us, we'd like to have a conversation, we'll be able to make that connection. Well, guys, thanks so much again for being on. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for taking the time and just explaining. It's nice to hear from you guys on your background and kind of your story. And then obviously, about Nimble, it sounds like you guys have a lot of really exciting things going on.
Excellent.
So, yeah, thanks. Have a good one. Appreciate it.
Thank you.